As the Cincinnati Bell Connector turns 2, it has yet to deliver on its promise to quickly move people around downtown and OTR. On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, can the city fix the streetcar? The Cincinnati streetcar was built for 2 reasons: to spur economic development and repopulation in downtown and over the Rhine, and to move people around Cincinnati's basin neighborhoods. Since opening September 9th of 2016, it's delivered on only one of those promises. At least $25 million in development directly on the route is attributable to the project, according to Business Courier research. The main issue with the streetcar has become how it operates. Here's what a rider told a city council back in March.
I try to take it every day of the week on my way to work, and frankly, it's really inconsistent.
Ridership dropped by 26% between the first and second year of operations. Vehicles have failed during cold weather, and a muddled management structure has allowed buck passing when it comes to ridership and reliability. Well, Business Courier reporter Chris Wetterick reports extensively on the streetcar and has filled 3 pages in the print edition this week with his latest findings. He joins Business Courier editor Rob Dahlmeyer in the studio to talk about what's being done to get the streetcar back on track. Chris and Rob.
Thanks, Peg. 3 whole pages. Chris.
Maybe we should have cut one of those, Rob.
Somebody up there doesn't like that. So the big issue, and it's funny, just the other day, our office overlooks the southbound on, was it Walnut, I guess,
Walnut
between 4th and 5th?
Yeah, right.
And we saw a FedEx truck, and it was parked out in front. It's, you know, the FedEx guy's not there, so the streetcar just sits. Blockages are a huge, huge problem. What can be done about that?
You know, it's really interesting. Let's talk a little bit about those blockages. The story starts out with a 23-minute blockage in the middle of the Bunbury Music Festival. Heavily attended, downtown-ish event. People using the streetcar that weekend, the stats showed. And people were stuck on this thing for 23 minutes, kind of like being on the tarmac at the airport, right, and you can't get off the plane. That's unacceptable, and they have to fix it. You know, there's some ideas out there. They want to try to coordinate better with all of these companies, and they also need to get towing vehicles. They need to get citation vehicles out there more quickly. I think those are 2 of the main things that they're going to do. One thing they're not going to do that, you know, it's kind of a mystery to me as to why they're not doing it is increase the fine. The fine is $50 to basically block a lane of traffic, including the streetcar. It's not just the streetcar that's being blocked when somebody does that. It's actually a lane of traffic as well.
Yeah.
So, but City Council and the mayor aren't real interested in doing that for whatever reason. And so that's a thing that critics of the administration's management of this says, you've got to fix that.
Well, some critics have also said just a streetcar in a city like Cincinnati, they just, you know, they don't mix. We don't need it. But Kansas City, very similarly sized city to Cincinnati, actually a bit smaller. And they have a streetcar, and they're having very different results.
They have
talk about that.
Extraordinary results. They have 5 million riders. We have less than 2 million riders. And granted, they've been in service maybe 3 or 4 months longer than we have. But even if you subtract that out, they have an extraordinary amount of riders. It's a very similar route. It goes by a lot of their attractions as well. It's a little bit straighter. It's just slightly longer, but it's pretty akin to what we have as well. Major differences between the 2: Kansas City's is free, and number 2, they don't have the blockages that we do. So I think our city is looking at ways to reduce those blockages. The people in council who are overseeing this, they're also looking at ways to make it free, because many of the things that the expenses incurred by gathering revenue from fares, when it all adds up, it's almost a wash.
Right.
So they're looking at ways that, okay, can we make this free and really increase ridership? And there may be more advertising revenue on the back end of that if you have more riders and more people looking at that ad. So.
Right. So last question for you. The streetcar right now is run by the same company that runs Metro.
Right.
Sorta.
Right.
And they're looking at maybe parting ways here. How's that going to work, and what's for the rest of us, what does that mean?
It's going to be very difficult. The Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority oversees the streetcar and the Metro buses, as you said, and you know there's a lot of bureaucratic interaction with the federal government, because the federal government paid for a good part of the streetcar, so they got to figure that out. And then there's a bunch of back office functions in SORTA that kind of double up, right? They have software that's used for the buses. They can just use that same software at no extra cost for the streetcar. Does the city have to go in and then buy that software? So there's a lot of cost questions that have to be figured out. But the thing that's driving it is Sorta is worried that the negative, and the city actually, and many of the elected leaders and business leaders in the community, they're worried that the levy that Sorta wants to put on the ballot to increase bus service will get hammered because they are managing the streetcar. And so there's a thought that if we have political separation, maybe we take some of the edge off of that.
Right. Well, it's a great story. A lot of pages, but it's a great story. I think the Kansas City example is really worth reading about just all by itself, but there's a lot more in there. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.